Most of the time, that fighting is done within a court of law, perhaps even in an agricultural hearing. Most, but not all. Chapter 1. Pissed. Not miffed, not worked up, not even angry. Flat out pissed. The interior of the truck was dark, silent, cold, as Lukas Webb sat behind the wheel. His pulse hammered through his temples, his breath pushed out in one loud burst at a time through his nose. In the Army, he'd been taught exercises for this type of moment, methods of breathing, ways of detaching his active mind and taking himself far away, soothing his nerves so he could focus on the task at hand. That was easy, though. That involved staring through a scope at a man he'd never met, bearing down on someone that had never wronged him personally, or even worse, wronged his family. Lukas thought for a moment about the exercises, about the way his spotter, Rick Bailey, had always told him to go through them before taking a shot, to calm the nerves, clear the mind. Just as fast, the thought passed. He didn't need sharp eyes or a steady hand for what he was about to do. All he needed was enough wherewithal to make sure he didn't go off script, turn things uglier than they already were. Condensation collected on the windows as Lukas remained in the truck, stewing. In his mind, he could still see the smug face of the bastard as he sat at the head of the table, as he sneered and told Lukas there wasn't enough time for him to speak. The thought made his blood run hot. It was all Lukas could do to turn around and walk back out into the night instead of going straight down the aisle and ripping him apart. Despite the temperature inside the truck, Lukas could feel a film of sweat on his skin. He ran a thumb across his brow, feeling the sting as droplets reached his eyes. He could taste salt on his upper lip. Without turning in the front seat, Lukas raised his right hand and hefted down the .30-06 from the window behind him. It slid easily from its perch in the top slot of the gun rack, the implement familiar in his hands. Rotating his arm at the wrist, he laid the weapon across his lap and stared down at it. The cherry stalk gleamed, catching a bit of the light from the security post outside, refracting it up at him. The tips of Lukas's fingers grazed along it, recalling the dozen mule deer they'd slain together. Hunting. A most noble cause for such a fine weapon. Nothing like what he was about to do. Pressing his lips tight, Lukas reached down into the passenger footwell, took up a small cardboard box of ammunition. He fished in and snagged a pair of shells, their red tips visible in the cab. Lukas rubbed the pad of his index finger along the side of his nose, streaked the resulting oil along the shells, inserted them one at a time into the gun, locked them in place with the distinct clang of metal on metal. Practiced hands worked the bolt-action lever, positioning the cartridges. Lukas gripped the weapon and stared through the front windshield of his truck. Gaze focused through the small hole that wasn't fogged over. Attention aimed on the front door. Inside there were over 50 people, some women and children. There was no doubt what he was about to do would scare the hell out of many of them. It didn't matter, though. They were in no real danger. There was only one target tonight. At such a close range, there was no way he would miss. With a heavy breath, Lukas wrenched the door open, heard the springs groan in protest, frozen metal scraping against itself. Cold air swirled around him as he stepped outside, felt the rims of his nostrils draw tight, heard his boots crunch on the hardened ground as he walked. The stock of the rifle he kept gripped in his right hand, the barrel in his left. With each step, his heart rate rose a bit more, his breathing gained speed. This was not the first time he'd ever fired in a crowded place.